Climate change is a global threat that has impacted health, livelihood, and critical infrastructures such as healthcare, sanitation, and water services. People living in fragile and ecologically sensitive areas, such as informal settlements, are more likely to be severely impacted due to pre existing structural inequities they encounter. Through the limited access to infrastructures such as proper drainages, roads, and housing. In Freetown informal settlements, limited investment in infrastructure is influenced by urban policy and planning processes that reinforce inequities through the exclusion of informal settlements in urban planning, design, and upgrade. As such, informal settlements remain more vulnerable to shocks such as flooding, heat, and building collapse due to the lack of resilient housing and infrastructure. Climate change has therefore made these vulnerabilities more visible. Moreover, the lack of adequate and disaggregated data on informal settlements makes response and adaptation strategies more difficult.
These communities are a critical part of Freetown, and if we have to talk about inclusive cities, their realities is very much important because unless they tell their own stories, it becomes a lot difficult to assume. And evidence-based decision making is very, very critical to ensuring that these particular spaces are being protected within the city. We cannot assume to know about their daily realities if we do not collect data and if we do not talk to them and if we do not really engage them, especially in terms of policy decision-making processes. So the extent to which policy and planning can really reflect their realities and the conditions and seek to promote the conditions where they live is so much about getting to hear them, getting to really tap from their experiences, the indigenous knowledge that they bring to bear on such particular actions that we have to formulate, that has to constitute.
As a result of the underlying challenges, residents of informal settlements in Freetown have developed indigenous ways of knowing and living with climate change shocks. Their ingenuity comes from their daily interaction with the environment and the changes they have seen over time. As part of the Urban Futures project, we have held diverse engagement with residents of two informal settlements, Thompson Bay and Pamaronko, to explore these experiences. In both settlements, residents describe climate change in terms of the increase of heat and different level of precipitation resulting in flooding. Flooding is attributed to two primary causes: increased and sustained rainfall during the rainy season, and sea level rise due to increased tidal waves, also known as Johnson Spring, during the dry season. Residents reported that increased tidal wave events causing seasonal flooding have become frequent in recent times, occurring about 3 to 4 times a year, severely affecting houses built on reclaimed lands along the ocean fronts. Residents of both communities expressed these concerns.
We get tide where we're taking care, but not only the one we can trade, where they come off from the drainages, then can affect you. The other one where they experience, the one where they come on and see. Even if not to all the time, when about like I talk and so time, because we get water, we can call low water, we get high water. That low water, we can get alafia. But when it comes to high water, certain time can come, where water they move people there, and some houses around. So that's back here.
If when they come, inside na the season by this water because soon they people inside. They was had a jump. They go affect you. They go net can when they get sleep. They left them being water. Say do clean. That will clean the back. Go do clean back until they all the water don't soak. They pull it all now. It's sand. Let sand dry. Okay, extremely for that land.
Heavy downpours combined with storms have also been attributed to the destruction of houses, including the unroofing of houses and causing displacement. Similarly, residents spoke about their experience of heat and how it impacts them. The impact of heat was described in terms of health outcomes such as body rash, respiratory condition, and loss of livelihood.
At times, you open the windows there. If you open the windows and back, the mosquitoes there. You can't say beaucoup. They affect malaria. They are the same time the thief man the thief free. Since you know when mistake on say you don't open window, you don't small, but you sleep past you. We don't cry. Thief man the thief free. Mosquitoes they eat to picking there who safe at the same time malaria too much. So 3 days before they sick. Pass to go cottage when they go cottage with pepper doctor himself. Go na pharmacy by doctor.
While challenges happen, informal settlements have developed intuitive ways of living with harsh conditions, such as flooding, using local and external resources at their disposal. One of such approaches is the design of adaptation strategies to cope with climate change hazard. In Pamaronko, the cleaning of drainages, use of sandbag for flood mitigation, and mangrove restoration in collaboration with Freetown City Council and the Ministry of Agriculture were reported. In Thompson Bay, the community cleaning of drainages, using through financial and labor contribution, construction of retaining walls to adapt to flooding, mending the roof in response to storm were reported at both household and community levels.
So if water can for affect me, even the one where they last time the one where they come up from the drainage, we will not get proper drainage. The one where they come up they come, we can able to attack and some due to how they utilize some nutrients or do cleaning to their family voluntarily. And even the one where they come on at the sea, he says we can get away. Oh, they do like banking, for example, like Croatia, like Lembaga. Locally, we're able to do this thing for bank up the water where they come up, we're able to survive for that moment. Voluntarily,
We can get some less bag there. We put gravel for bank. The south side water the pass for affect go inside to Rianda.
Okay.
You understand? So we get some gravel there, put her inside the bank by the road inside the water the claim of the inside where they go affect you. But all that still they go inside. The rain don't come big one, the water the well badly, they enter inside the place. So they may get some set. So they don't the rain sees they build they take up the water for Poland.
The adaptation strategies of informal settlement residents in Freetown indicate agencies to respond to adverse events such as hazard and vulnerability related to climate change. However, these actions require the intervention of state and non-state actors in enabling a coherent and sustainable response. These require constant engagement with diverse stakeholders to develop shared understanding of climate hazard and their impacts on marginalized urban residents. However, policy reinforcing the notion of illegality of informal settlements need to be reconsidered to foster inclusive dialogue to mitigate the risks of climate change on vulnerable individuals. The Urban Futures project is set to facilitate this dialogue through co-design workshops and diverse urban stakeholders.